Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, on this episode of the Bullet Points this morning, we have got to analyze even more information that is leaking out from Washington, D.C. about the gun control, the pending negotiations between the major Republicans and Democrats in the Senate there. Now, this is the important stuff. The things that we covered yesterday, like the 8 new gun control bills that were introduced in the House, that is one thing that is separated over here. What is really important about what we're going to cover today is the senators of the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, and they are negotiating a few things that we need to be aware of. There's a ton of information coming out. We are in a huge fog of war situation. So make sure that if you are not already, you are subscribed. That notification bell is on because we've got to get this information out to as many people as we can as quickly as possible, and we'd love to have you join us in the ranks. Now, everything is going to be linked in the description box below per usual. I want to hear you guys on this one. Send this out to whoever you think would benefit from this information. And I'm going to say a quick word from our sponsor, and then we're going to hit it and hit it hard on the other side because you've got to know this information. This is very important stuff. Now, I know a lot of you out there like to repair and upgrade your own guns. If you're looking for a way to take your hobby to the next level, Sonoran Desert Institute can help. The online programs at SDI cover armor courses, gunsmithing, ballistics, shooting sports management, and more. Plus, tools and materials are shipped to your door for hands-on practice. It's never been a better time to get an education that you can actually use on the job, so what are you waiting for? There's a link in the description box below to find out more, and thank you to SDI for making this information available to you guys. But now let's dive into these red flag laws that are starting to leak out, guys. This is really, really important because this is the stuff that you're going to see, and it's coming back from the past in 2019. Bipartisan discussions on red flag laws make progress as Senators Graham and Blumenthal revise gun control proposal. Now, there's a lot of that, and this article came out this morning. Okay, so this is the new information. Senator Graham, Rhino from South Carolina, Blumenthal from Connecticut, full-on gun controller. When those two get together, I don't get warm, fuzzy feelings. But let's keep going. I'm going to show you what they're talking about. Again, this is coming from that small little contingent of senators, Democrat and Republican, with Manchin, Sinema, Graham, a few others, Cornyn. That's where this is coming from, okay? Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut are making progress as they hammer out details of revised red flag legislation that they both hope can win sufficient GOP support to overcome a filibuster in the Senate, according to 4 people familiar with the discussions who were not authorized to speak publicly. That's a leak. Okay, so what's important here is there are 19 states currently that employ red flag legislation. If you talk about red flag legislation nationally, you've got a much bigger issue from a standpoint, well, a lot more details which we're going to cover later, but I'm trying to just bring this information. This is a completely separate thing that I mentioned from the 8 bills that were introduced in the House. This is separate from Cory Booker's gun control law. This is separate from Dianne Feinstein's gun control proposal. This is important to separate and delineate these out. But what they're talking about right now, and it looks like they're going towards specifically either red flag or yellow flag legislation. Red flag, you've got family members and teachers and pastors and all that can report people to courts to get their guns taken away. Yellow flag can only do law enforcement. That's the high level. But that's not the focus of this video. Let's keep going because this stuff is big. In recent days, the two have been having frequent phone calls and have been working closely together to review a red flag bill they co-sponsored in 2019, making revisions that they believe can enable a similar, tweaked proposal to win wide support in the divided Senate, the 4 people told CBS News. Now, this is a 2019 proposal, so this already has been in the system. It's already been circulating, so they're tweaking an older bill. If it's been in the system for a while and it didn't get support before, the odds of it getting support now are pretty small. I'm not saying it's not going to happen and we got to be focused like a laser on this, but this is not new legislation. This is something that they've already done, and I'll do a piece on it another time. But let's keep going. At this stage, their updated proposal would focus on establishing federal grants for states to create or bolster red flag laws. A red flag law, in most instances nationwide, enables law enforcement officials to temporarily seize firearms from individuals who are seen as a threat to themselves or other people if given a court order to do so. Now, there's 2 things here. 1, there's not really a due process piece of this type of legislation. Basically, if a judge decides that you're a risk, you're getting your Second Amendment rights infringed upon. That's essentially how it boils down. Now, later on, after you get clearance from the court, you get your guns back, theoretically. But that's a bit of a reverse of what it should be, isn't it? Anyway, let's keep going. The other interesting piece about this is establishing federal grants for states to create or bolster red flag laws. If you're establishing funds, then that would lead me to believe that you're not going to actually establish red flag laws. If you're encouraging states to do it, that probably means you're not looking at it federally, because federal, if you did it federal, it would go across all the states. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That you can kind of read into that. We'll find out more as it comes forward, because that's just conjecture at this point. The remaining challenge for Graham and Blumenthal is crafting legislative language on due process and judicial review that does not push wary Republicans away, while also not appearing to overly soften their initial bill and frustrate Democrats. And that's the gambit they're trying to run. Republicans are going to balk at the idea that you're going to take people's guns without due process. Pesky Constitution. Democrats are going to balk that you didn't go far enough. So if you've got to walk right there in that middle line, it looks, again, this is complete hypothesis, it looks like they're settling on red flag or yellow flag legislation as that middle ground. How strong or how weak it is completely depends on what they decide can get passed in a 60 GOP filibuster. Again, a high bar. We'll see what happens. Make sure you stay tuned, because this is ever evolving. One person familiar with the discussion said Graham and Blumenthal are working on provisions that would be acceptable to both parties, particularly when it comes to the timeline between a court order prompted by evidence of extreme risk and a hearing. The scope and type of evidence required are also under discussion. So again, that's all the details. Everything is there. You can't just say, we're making progress because we think red flag laws are good to talk about. No. I need details. We need to know what's going on. And that's where they're going to hit the resistance. A second person familiar with the discussion said the trust between Graham and Blumenthal was helpful, but did not signal a consensus of 60 votes was anywhere in sight at this point. Whether it's on red flag legislation or other areas, the person pointed to Cornyn as the key senator to watch on the GOP side. Now, the reason that is incredibly important is twofold. One, you still have to get to that 60 filibuster vote. That's a high bar, like I said, and they're saying it's nowhere near that. The second thing is Cornyn. When you've got Cornyn, who's openly come out and said, we'll have everything on the table except you're not infringing upon people's Second Amendment rights who are lawful abiding citizens, again, that makes that scope even narrower. They have to walk that tightrope. At this point, they're walking like a piece of floss across a gorge. All right, and now this last piece. On CBS News, Face the Nation on Sunday, Murphy, whose home state suffered the Sandy Hook Elementary School situation a decade ago, said he knows Republicans won't support everything he does, but red flag laws are on the table, as well as expanding background checks and other efforts like safe storage of guns. Okay, background checks, H.R. 8 and 1446, those have already stymied. I don't know if they're going to get that revived. The other thing here, safe storage of gun laws, I don't know if you're going to get a National Safe Storage Act. I don't think that you have the votes for that. If you're having trouble having a federal government dictate red flag laws across the spectrum of states, I don't know if you're going to get 60 Republican or 60 total votes to say, well, this is how you have to store your firearm, and if not, there's penalties. That seems like a far bar for me. But we're going to keep you updated. Let me know what you guys think in the comments field, and I will see you on the next episode. I'm Braden. See you later.